Chuck has recently moved to Bay County. Actually, he came from another state, so he's been here long enough to have a Florida policy. And his question is, Chris, can you help me understand PIP insurance better?
Right.
And whether or not I have any recourse against the person who hit me, because it doesn't look like he had any insurance.
Right, and you know, a lot of times when we get, especially with folks that come from out of state, they've heard Florida's a no-fault state, so they think they've been in an accident, there's nothing they can do about it.
Right.
Well, the no-fault aspect of Florida law is what you just mentioned, is the PIP that Chuck has had to get on his policy now that he is a Florida resident. It's one of the few insurances that are mandated for automobile owners in the state of Florida. But that PIP is something that you can look to, whether the accident is your fault, somebody else's fault, you name it, and it covers anybody in your household potentially. And it's up to $10,000 of coverage that's health insurance built into your policy. It can be used to pay 80% of your medical expenses that you actually incur, or up to 60% of your lost wages.
But the trade-off to having PIP in the no-fault state is that you don't have to have mandatory BI.
Right, at least in our current iteration in Florida.
And Chuck said he's concerned about the individual not having insurance to cover any type of losses that he may sustain. So, you know, coming from out of state, he's already in Florida, he has a Florida policy. You know, naturally we start looking at uninsured motorists if that's the case.
And that's one thing that everybody in the state of Florida has to have front and center on what they're looking at anytime they get a policy, because of just what you said, Chris. The other drivers are not mandated to take coverage, to have coverage to protect you, and many don't. And one of the dangerous things we do in any given day is get out and drive a car.
Yes.
It's one of the riskiest things. And why do we buy insurance? But if I'm hurt and I have hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical expenses, that's a loss I can't afford to have happen to me, or don't want to have happen to me. So you can protect yourself by buying uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, and it's a great way to protect yourself.
And it's extremely inexpensive considering how expensive insurance has gotten.
Absolutely.
Now.